welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Suzy Hardy. She is a certified stress management and anxiety coach. Welcome to the show, Suzy.
Thank you so much, AJ. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome to the show. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk about. We'll be talking about dealing with stress and anxiety. This is such a big problem in today's time. So my first question to you, Suzy, you are a certified stress management and anxiety coach. So you are the best person to help us understand these two things. Many a times it's very difficult to understand what is stress and what is anxiety. And especially, when you are going through difficult times around this, when you are stressed out or anxious about something, you just don't know which is what. So help us understand how does one differentiate between stress and anxiety if one is going through any of these?
Yes, absolutely. So there's different types of stress, and not all stress is bad. Stress is actually something that helps us learn and grow. So stress is our body's reaction to change. And this, of course, change can be good. Birth of a new baby, a marriage, a new job, moving houses to a better place. Sometimes stress can be good, and it's a temporary reaction to change. Anxiety, so you can have stress without anxiety, but you cannot have anxiety without stress. Okay. So anxiety is fear of the future, fear of a future threat, really, whether real or imagined. And I like to hone it down to that, is fear of the future, usually of the unknown or of things that we're kind of creating in our mind that we're fearful that we can't control.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right, Suzy. Yeah. You talk about 6 different types of stress. Now, that itself is very stressful to understand. Help us understand what are these different types of stress so that people can differentiate with whatever is happening with them.
Yes, there can be, work stress, relationship stress, environmental stress, whether that be in, there's so many places around the world that are unfortunately going through wars, invasions, strife, famine, things of that nature. So that's 3. We can, as I said, financial, work, environmental, relationship, existential, which we're also experiencing right now on a global level in many places around the world. And I'm racking my brain for the last.
No problem. So somewhere in the way we live day to day, one of the areas that can be a different type of stress.
This is a way of, stress gets overwhelming because it can be in all of these different areas. And our bodies always like to pretend that everything is fine. Our bodies like to keep us in homeostasis, that we can handle it, everything is fine. But they can pile up. So you can have, stress with money, stress with your marriage, stress with friendship, stress with family, stress with what is going on in the world over, which is enormous right now. I mean, it's unbelievable to me how we survived COVID. We did the best we could, I think. And we're now trying to pretend we're just trying to get back to normal, but things are not normal in so many ways. It changed the world irrevocably. It changed everything. It changed the way we worked. It changed our health. We lost loved ones. So all of these things, all of these stresses can pile up. If we had, some in one area and maybe another area, and we can kind of mitigate, we can kind of figure that out, we can kind of deal with it, wouldn't be such a big deal. But when they pile up, it leads to overwhelm for our nervous system. Our nervous system is always our nervous system's evolved not for all of this technology, not for the modern day life that we have now. It evolved for, when we were cavemen or living in the savannah or, living a much more simple life. And now we have so much more added on top of it that when they're compiled can lead to anxiety. And I think people the world over are really experiencing that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will come to this, more on how we can deal with this. But first, to understand about panic attacks, what
Mhm.
are which category do they fall on? Anxiety, in terms of stress. See, you dealt with it. You were
Mhm.
a third grade. You had panic attack.
I
How
did.
did you? Yes. And
Yes.
how do you deal with that? So, in terms of kids, I want to understand. That is why I want to understand how do we differentiate again anxiety, stress, and in terms of panic attack. What does that mean? Especially if a kid is going through that, how do I make that out that okay, this is the problem my kid is facing, especially when they are not able to express it that clearly. That's why I wanted to understand which category panic attack falls in, what is the trigger for this, and how do I make sure that I understand those triggers before this thing gets triggered in itself.
A panic attack is definitely the worst form of anxiety. It is like the very worst of the worst of anxiety. You can have general anxiety, and then you can have actual panic attacks where your body. So let's talk about the nervous system, because this is what stress and anxiety really affect, and other things. But mainly, the nervous system is what perceives the stress, perceives events, triggers that create anxiety. So when I was a child, I had two stressful events that happened at the same time, and my body perceived a threat, even though it wasn't really a threat. I was in a public restaurant with my family. I was changing schools, which many children go through and can be stressful because you just don't know what the environment's going to be like. Are you going to make friends? It's change, as I discussed earlier. And then I had, my parents. I was told they were going to get divorced, and I was a highly sensitive child, and this sent me sitting in this restaurant with my family into a state of panic. So there's two forms of the nervous system. There's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the one that's responsible for when you perceive a threat. Let's take it back to what our ancestors went through. There's a snap. We're in the forest, and there's a snap of a twig, and it could be a predator, could be a lion, a bear, a tiger, something that's going to kill us. Our body hears that, processes the information, and goes, I need to run, or I need to get ready to fight, because that's how we survive as a species. That's the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system, once we run away, we get to a safe place, we know we're okay, we're back in our cave, our hut, whatever it is. The parasympathetic nervous system is the portion that brings it all down, calms us down, brings us back to homeostasis, to normalcy. This is how we've survived. This is how many creatures in the wild survive. They have these dual portions of their nervous system that respond immediately so that we can be safe. Well, we don't have those kinds of stresses anymore, usually. Some people do, especially with war. It's horrible. But we have daily, modern day stresses of work, of bills, of relationships, of social media, of imposter syndrome, of trying to get the job, trying to get the raise, what have you, trying to get into university, all of those things. But our nervous systems were not wired for that. So we react to these things that aren't life-threatening as if they are. When I was 8 years old, that's my body did. It said, you need to get out of here immediately, even though I was sitting in a restaurant and everything was fine. My brain was spitting out. There were thoughts going on. There's portions of my subconscious working, and I felt like I needed to flee. And you asked how I dealt with that. Well, at the time, I didn't know how to, because this is a portion of your body, of your nervous system, that's trying to preserve you from danger. And it was really imaginary. It was me worrying about my new school. It was me worrying about, remember I said anxiety is fear of the future, fear of threats, whether real or imaginary. Well, these were threats that I was imagining in my head that hadn't happened and actually never did happen. But I suffered from it. And from there on out, from childhood, through my adulthood, I suffered from panic attacks, general anxiety, and depression. And I never found relief. I had gone to doctors, I'd gone to therapists, I had done meditations, I had done, different medications that didn't really help. And so I had to figure out why this was happening to me and how to heal from it, because I didn't want to suffer from it any longer. It really affected my whole life. It affected how I did on tests. It affected my dating life. It affected when I was a professional actress, when I would audition. It affected how I felt about myself. I had a lot of shame around it, AJ, because you think I shouldn't be feeling this way. There's something wrong with me. I'm sitting in a restaurant and I'm freaking out. Why? There must be something wrong with me. There was a lot of shame attached to it too. So not only did I not physically feel well, but then I had shame attached to it too. And I had to find a way to go, it's okay. I am not the only one that feels this way, especially in this day and age. And especially for children in this day and age. They have a lot going on. They have a lot to deal with. And the first step is to be able to talk about it and to list out what your triggers are. What are your stresses? What are your anxiety triggers? Because if you don't bring it to the sunlight, you can't heal from it.
Right. Suzy, when you talked about anxiety, you said it is much more related to things that you think for the future. You are worried about the future.
Yeah.
But panic attacks happen in the present.
Yes.
How does that work? Because thinking about future can lead to so much of impact on our thought process. Then how do you break that? Because the world will end after 1 billion years. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
That should that lead to a panic attack, or is it something more? You talked about several things that were going in your family life at that point in time when you are in 3rd grade. But in terms of kids, how kids seem to be oblivious about a lot of things. They are obviously not worried about that the world will end someday. What is it? I want to understand from a parent's perspective. The world is changing so fast. How can they monitor, especially their children, that they are not passing through any of these issues and they are not in the know, and suddenly school calls them and tells them, listen, your kid has had a panic attack. How do I know? What are the symptoms? How can I prevent such things? And when I ask for kids, obviously it also includes adults also, but kids are not able to express themselves so well like an adult will be able to do.
I think they will if you ask them questions. You know, they have to feel safe. Anxiety and lots of stress dissipates when you feel safe and comfortable. So asking them the questions and telling them it's okay, you're okay, what you're feeling is okay, it's normal, it's part of being a human. Lots of people deal with it. When they feel safe enough, they can talk about what their worries are. And then a parent can say, I understand, but you're okay. And there are different tools and techniques. There's different things you can do with supplements. You have to make sure that the body is getting the right nutrition to support a relaxed nervous system. You know, having the child list out, write down is a big deal of what are the thoughts, what are the recurring thoughts or worries, what are the stresses, and what are the things that are bringing on the anxiety. Because when you bring this to light, they're being able to verbalize it and they're being able to process through it. Working with a therapist will also help, especially with children, because you know, they need safe spaces to share what they're going through. And if a parent doesn't feel like they have enough knowledge behind it, then it is great to get some external help. But always just making their child feel safe and loved and that it's okay is a great big step in the right direction.
Right, Suzy. Now, whenever any panic attack or one is under stress or a lot of anxiety, how does the body react to it? How would I know, okay, this person is having a panic attack? Is there a way I can observe, especially, you know, in terms of when we have family members around? How do you just notice? What should you notice when one is having an anxiety attack and they are trying to hide it?
Well, you know what? They can be very good at hiding it. I was, because I had a lot of shame around it. So you may not know. It may all be up in here in someone's head, Their heart may be beating. They might be sweating. They might need to run out. You won't necessarily know unless you ask them or unless they tell you. And
Okay.
again, because
Then
there's
how
so
do
much,
I know if I'm suffering from that?
if you're suffering from it, you will feel like you need to run away. You will feel very uncomfortable. Your heart will beat fast. Your stomach might hurt. You'll feel nervous. You'll feel worried. You'll feel anxious. You'll feel jittery. It's very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Okay. And if someone is passing through that situation in an office life, what is it that they can do immediately?
The first thing to do is to connect to your breath, because we often hold our breath. Or breathe faster when we're having panic. And one thing you can do, I teach many different tools and techniques I do a coaching program called Serenity School for people that are suffering from stress and anxiety. Place your hand over your heart and breathe into your hand. Connect with your breath. Close your eyes if you're in a place that you can do that. Go to a place where you can reset and calm your body down, whether that be a bathroom or if you're at home, a private room. Breathing, connecting to your breath is going to help bring the body down into a more relaxed state.
Right.
That's one thing you can do. There's many things you can do, but that's one thing you can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now let's come to the food part of it. You have been a former co-host of the successful Food Heals podcast. So food can heal. And you talk about that how nutrition can help us relieve of stress and anxiety. Help us this aspect, because every time medication should be only the last resort. If there are other things available, especially if it's food, it's the very easy thing to do for many people.
Absolutely. So our nervous system uses certain vitamins and minerals to stay healthy and calm. And in times of stress, we use those up. For example, magnesium. It's a water-soluble mineral that we need in our diet. And if we are very stressed, our bodies use it up. And often the food that we're eating isn't always very nutrient rich anymore because of the way it's grown, because the soil has been over-farmed, etc. Taking a magnesium supplement, which is fairly cheap and pretty tasty if you get a certain brand. I use one that I stir into water. It tastes like lemon. And within 20 minutes, I can feel differently from it. Magnesium is used by the parasympathetic nervous system in order to calm down. Another supplement that is wonderful are B vitamins. B vitamins are also used up in times of stress and needed by our nerve cells in order to function properly. Gut health is hugely important. The intestines are where our neurotransmitters, that are the chemicals in between nerve cells in order for nerve cells to function properly, serotonin, etc., are made in our gut. So if our gut is unhealthy, if we have gut problems, that could affect our propensity to have stressful reactions and anxious reactions. So it's all connected. But if you're having stress and anxiety problems, doing these things can help your body get back into balance, as you also do work on the triggers that we talked about, as you also do work on your body. Exercising is a wonderful way. So when you get that stressful, anxious reaction, your cortisol shoots up, or our stress hormone shoots up. The only way we break that down is either through sleep or exercise. And of course, stress and anxiety can affect sleep. So you have to focus on the things that you can control in order to feel better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is much to learn about dealing with this, and what is the best way, in fact, available to one. And for that, one can always have a master like you who can tell stress management and anxiety coach. So what is the best way for people to learn more from you about stress and anxiety? And also those who would like to, take your help as a coach, what's the best way to connect with you?
Absolutely. So they can go to my website. It's SuzyHardy.com, SuzyHardy.com. If they sign up for my newsletter, I do offer a free video tutorial of a very fast, very effective, simple technique that brings the body very quickly back into a calm state. This is very easy to learn. You can teach it to children, and you'll get instant access to that if you sign up for my newsletter.
Wonderful. On this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, AJ. It was a pleasure.